Hey, what's good? It's your boy JoJo. My book just got released. You know what I mean? That's a good thing. Congrats, hand claps for your boy, all that. I never thought I'd be the type to really sit down and write a book, but I did 3 years in the pen. You know what I mean? And this was kind of my therapy. Sitting down writing my book every day kept me out of trouble. And as I was writing this book, it was my process of change. You know what I mean? I was going through the process of trying to change my character, my personality as an individual. So as you sit down and read the book, you'll see that change taking place. You know what I mean? I'm not your typical type of author, believe me. So this is definitely not your typical type of autobiography. I just want to give y'all a couple bars of this book to let you know. You know what I mean? This not your typical type of book. I'm gonna read y'all the shortest chapter in the whole book, which is chapter 11, the halls. The next morning I awoke in a one-man cell. I could feel I could feel every sore and bruise that I obtained from the chase the day prior. My body felt as if it were ran over by a diesel truck. I eased my aching body out of my concrete bed and began to pace my cell. The realization of my situation quickly sunk in. They charged Ghost and me with home invasion robbery. We were being accused of forcing our way inside of a house and robbing the owner of the residence at gunpoint. The resident was a suspected drug dealer. The maximum sentence for this crime is 15 years to life. But because we were juveniles and weren't being tried as adults, we were exempt from the 15 to life sentence. And if convicted, would be condemned to YA life, which for me meant 10 years of incarceration. I knew that I was innocent of the accused charges because at the time that the home invasion supposedly took place, I was in Los Angeles, seeking out my own criminal endeavors. I couldn't explain this to the judge, so Ghost and I had all intentions of taking our case to trial. As I paced my cell, thoughts began to run rampant and my blurry details of my case choked my mind. Alone in that box, forced to be still, I was able for the first time in a long time to gather my undomesticated thoughts. This was a major reason why I became what the district attorney has labeled me numerous times before, a menace to society. The rambunctious me harbored such a lust and anticipation for life that I rarely was still. I was constantly on the move. I never developed the habit to merely stop and meditate, a time to halt and consider or reconsider my past actions, an opening for my conscience to balance wrong from right concerning my unjustified behavior. Because I lacked this ability, I repeated the same subconscious destructive behavior. I unknowingly was preventing my conscience from correcting my characteristic flaws. The naive I knew nothing of this concept, obviously, so my recidivism begun at an early age. "Hey, Bam, are you alright down there?" A familiar voice shouted from their cell door. "Ghost, cuz, is that you?" I responded through the small opening of my cell door. "Yeah, it's me. I'm stressing, man. What we gonna do about this case?" he fretted. "I don't know. All we can do is keep our mouths shut and wait for the outcome," I replied. "Yeah, I guess so," he answered. "So how they catch you, Ghost?" I asked. "While they were chasing you, I made my way back to my house, and before long they had it surrounded," he exclaimed, with a hint of self-disappointment. "My mom's gonna kill me, man." There we were, facing a life sentence, and Ghost was worried about the chastisement he would receive from his mother. Tap, tap, tap. An eccentric rookie guard tapped my window with his billy club. "Hey, you, shut up in there," he demanded. I ignored his presence. "All right, Ghost. I'll holler at you when the door's cracked, cuz." The guard shot a menacing glare at me before walking away. I shot one right back. I tried to sound strong, as though everything that was unraveling around me was irrelevant. I was actually stressing. Just the thought of serving youth authority life caused my body to cringe. But I was supposed to be Big Bad Bam, right? Yeah, right. As I paced my cell, I noticed a white kite, a letter, slide across the floor. One of the porters must have shot it under my cell door. I curiously unfolded the kite and began to read. "What's up, Lo? It's Bear. Parentheses. Pookadook's cousin. I'm in the unit next to you. I'm holding the hood down over here, cuz. So you do the same over there. I'm on my way to Crossroads for a robbery I didn't do. Everything's been getting robbed around town and the boys locking up whoever they can. I'll be gone in a few days. So you keep it solid, and say Coast banging. East up. First Street, East Coast Crip. Bear." Breakfast ran late that morning. Ghost and I ate at the same table. After breakfast, we were escorted back to our cells, and an hour later, we were released for yard. On the yard, Ghost and I introduced ourselves to the blacks. In the hall, there were cliques. There was a South Side clique, Hispanics, the Peckerwoods, Caucasians, and the Crips and Bloods, the blacks. There were the others. They were the non-affiliates and a mixture of various ethnic groups. The aura was just as hostile as a modern-day penitentiary, but the gang politics were slightly lenient, more lenient. Ghost wasn't your typical Caucasian. He preferred to run with the blacks rather than his own ethnic group, which would be the Peckerwoods. So I introduced him to the blacks as Ghost from A9 East Coast Crip. The Peckerwoods looked down on Ghost because of this, but they didn't yet display their disgust. Little Clipto, an affiliate of 190 East Coast Crip, was also in the same unit as me. He was a straight up cat. At nights, before lights out, Little Clipto, Ghost, and I would recite an East Coast Crip roll call. All the gangs in the hall had a roll call that they would shout through their cells that night, so I conjured up a roll call for us also. Lil Clipto would lead, shouting through his cell door, "Roller coasters, state your affiliation." Lil J Capone, 89 East Coast Crip bastards, I feverishly shouted. Ghost, 89 East Coast Crip bastard. Ghost shout. 190 East Coast Crip bastard, Clipto screams. Then we all shouted, "First Street to 190, roller coasting." This continued for days without interruption, until one night. During hood roll calls, if someone decided to exclaim the term boom, it meant that he was blowing up your hood, thus becoming a term of disrespect. On many occurrences, when diverse neighborhoods recited their roll calls, a rival gang affiliate would shout, "Boom," but the individual responsible for the remark would rarely expose his identity, taking refuge behind the confinement of his cell door. On one occasion, during our East Coast roll call, someone borrowed the term "boom." When we demanded that the person responsible for the disrespect be a man and confess, no one complied. So because I took my affiliation very serious, I knew that something had to be done, or the disrespect would continue. I threateningly roared through my cell door, "Since y'all marks think this banging is a game, when these doors crack in the morning, the first person that says something is getting cracked." I intended to uphold my threat. When the door slid open the next morning, everyone stepped outside and stood beside their cells with their hands positioned behind their backs. This was the usual morning routine for B-Pod. Rather than clasping my hands behind my back, I threw up the hood initials to Little Clipto, who was housed 4 cells down from me. A Southsider, who was standing directly behind me, exclaimed, "Hey Holmes, aren't you supposed to have your hands behind your—" He wasn't able to finish his statement because I immediately took flight. My fist repetitiously drilled his face. The security sirens echoed through the halls. Get down, now, now." The hysterical guard shouted. By the time the guards arrived at the scene, my hands were extended in the "I surrender" position, and the Southsider was on his knees attempting to stop the blood from gushing down his nose. They forcefully slammed me against the wall and twisted my arm in a convoluted manner. It felt as if my arm would rip out of its sockets. "Dang, cuz, take it easy." They shoved me inside my cell and slid the door closed. "Hope you're comfortable in there because you're not coming out for a while," a guard assured. I recall feeling relieved and soothed. I had so much stress and tension bottled inside of me because of the weight of my case. It felt good to physically relinquish it all. After that incident, our East Coast roll call was never interrupted again. For the following week, the only time that I was permitted out of my cell was for showers and my mandatory hour of yard, which I spent alone. On one occasion, a black guard who took a liking to me slid a Shakespeare novel into my cell. "Widen your intellect, youngster," the guard said before strolling away. It was either Shakespeare or the King James Bible, so I chose the Shakespeare. But after 20 minutes of "Thou art in whom ye thous," I slid the Shakespeare back out of my cell door and picked up King James. One night during my cell workout, a disturbance across the hall gained my attention. The occupant of the cell directly across from mine, who was a Peckerwood, was throwing a temper tantrum inside of his cell. Apparently, he had obtained a sharp object and began slicing himself. He then used his own blood to draw Nazi signs on the walls of his cell. The guards attempted to penetrate his cell, but when they advanced forward, the Peckerwood displayed his sharp weapon, yelling, "Come on, you nigger lovers, who's getting stabbed first?" he shouted with crazed vengeance. The guards waited for their comrades to arrive before opening the suicidal Peckerwood cell. Once they arrived, they suffocated him with pepper spray, then bombarded his cell. Moments later, he was carried away in restraints and taken to medical. After he was patched up and his cell was cleaned, he was thrown back in his cell and placed in restraints for the remainder of the night. I was off I was off a lockdown for less than a day when another altercation occurred. During our day room time, I overheard a peckerwood, the same peckerwood that had the suicidal episode a few days prior, parentheses, called Ghost a nigger lover, who was drinking from the water fountain. Before Ghost could respond, I quickly intervened. I already harbored malice feelings towards the wood because of his past use of the word nigger. Hey, cuz, what was that you said? I interrogated the wood. Are you deaf of hearing, boy? He tautly replied. My fist went flying. Seconds later, I was cuffed and escorted back to my cell. They deemed me a threat to general population and accused me of inciting a racial riot, so they placed me on green tag, which was permanent lockdown until further notice. When everyone's program ended, I was then escorted to yard for my mandatory hour of play. There was one other inmate in B-Pod that was green tagged as myself. His name was Dreamcatcher, a Southside Baker affiliated out of Bakersfield City. The rumor was that he was on his way to YA for a double murder. They kept us separated. They relocated me to a cell on the east of the pod, so Ghost, Crypto, and me weren't able to converse through our cell doors at night, which was our custom. So they both would come over to my cell during their day room time and keep me company. My mother wasn't able to frequently travel the long distance to Bakersfield Juvenile Hall, so the only times I've seen her was inside the courtroom or on my court appearances. On one occasion, she convinced the judge to allow her to visit me. A guard escorted me out of the holding tank and over to my mother. I immediately smiled when I seen her motherly grin. I wasn't sure if she was aware of the trouble I was getting myself into inside the hall, but what mama doesn't know won't hurt her. I fell into her refuge in my mother's arms and felt a momentary safeness. The guard brought over 2 chairs for my mom and me to sit on. How you doing in there, baby? You look horrible, my mother said. How you expect me to look, ma? They trying to give me life, I replied. It's not life, Emmanuel. Parentheses, my middle name, which means God is with us. You'll be out when you're 25, she jokingly taunted. I'm only 15. That's like 10 years, I whimpered. Well, you'll be 16 in 2 weeks, but stop worrying. Me and your grandma have been praying for you. God's gonna let you out of here. You just watch and see, she confidently assured. I've been praying too, ma. If he gets me out of this one, I'm squaring up for real, I fibbed. My mother glared at me with her lie detector eyes and with her lips pressed together. I hope so, son. I really do. As I stood inside of my 6x8 cubicle, staring out of my window, my mom's words played in my mind. I was surprised to see my mother's calm and collected demeanor. She was so assured and confident that I would be released. I guess she was unaware of the victim picking me out of the fabricated lineup, or about my dump truck public defender who was determined to convince me to take a deal before he even read the transcripts. To me, and my worldly rationalization, I was thoroughly convinced that all hope was lost. Despite the numerous odds that were working against me, 2 weeks later, on July 23rd, the year 2001, my 16th birthday, we were released from custody. The victim had mystically vanished. All pending charges were dropped. The judge accused me of foul play. He suspected that Ghost and I were somehow involved in the disappearance of the witness. God never ceases to amaze me. Despite my sinful ways and my hardened heart, God's mercy still abounded in my life. He answered my mother's petition, but yet again, I ignored his grace. The chapter ends with a poem called Fatherless Child. How does this world depict a fatherless child? His corn is discarded and he's tossed to the wild. His horrid trials are despised and his life reviled. The road ahead seems so cruel for this illegitimate child. So many riddles he's yet to understand. It was once said it takes a whole village to raise a man. So what is he to do if not one lends a hand? And the world rips away every prospect for a friend. The child's suppressed betrayal will fill that absent hole. The world's cruel treatment will take its cancerous toll. Society is unaware of the mistakes it has made, while fatherless child roams wild, filled with rage. Go copy you a copy.